Ladies and gentlemen, I've seen some things in my day, but this one absolutely takes the cake. I never thought I'd see a video of Joe Biden saying that he put together the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. And I gotta wonder, was this like in Biden's old age, a Freudian slip? He's just lost the filter. You know, Joe Biden's been known for his gaffes, right? And a lot of people say you can't think straight. But I've had some people tell me that when you're in your old age, you kind of just blurt things out. You just say things. You don't filter. Now they're calling this a gaffe. And says who? Who says it's a gaffe? How do you know? It was clear as day when he said, okay, it's a gaffe. I don't know what he was trying to say, but I got to be honest. I got a headache. This election makes no sense. I got a bunch. I'm trying, look, okay. I wake up every morning and I'm like, what's in the news today? And I'm like reading through things and I'm trying to figure out, what's what. And I'm seeing all these stories like Democrats are winning Texas and like a major swing for Democrats in Montana. Trump is winning the black vote. I'm like, this is amazing stuff. It's really, really amazing stuff. I'll tell you this. I got to tell you, I'm having a good time. Everything's being flipped on its head. No one knows what's going on. 538 apparently has like one scenario where Trump wins California but still loses the national election. Like, he's not going to win California. But I guess in their forecast models, they try to have a wide range, potentially accounting for any real errors or anything like that. But I'll just tell you, man, nothing makes sense. And I got a bunch of stories for you. Frank Luntz, the famous pollster, said if Joe Biden loses, then he's out of a job. Like, and these people got to leave because the polls are saying Trump is going to lose. All right, I'm telling you this right now. Let me show you. I got to play you this clip. This is what it's all about. This one clip I'm going to play for you. Let's just listen.
Secondly, we're in a situation where we have put together. And you guys did it for our the President Obama's administration before this. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
Okay. Hold on. He was reading from something. And you know what I don't like in these situations is when you get a clip out of context, because I'll tell you this. It may be that what he is saying is to track down voter fraud because the Democrats have been desperately trying to claim it's not real. So I'll tell you what. Steve Guest tweeted this out. Joe Biden brags about having the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. I don't know what that means at all, but Joe Biden was reading from something when he said it. Seriously, you can see the guy. He's reading a piece of paper. Look at, he's reading. What is he reading? Maybe what he was saying was early on, to track down voter fraud. But I honestly don't think that's true because the Democrats say there isn't voter fraud. So why would they put together an organization to track it down unless they're trying to prove Trump wrong? I don't know, man. Listen, it's probably just a gaffe. But I'm highlighting this because I woke up. Someone sent me this. I think it was last night. Yeah, last night it went out. And I'm watching this this morning, and I'm just like rubbing my eyes, confused. Like, did he just say that? Like, what is this? Because even if that's a gaffe, it's a really bad one. I'll tell you what, man. I got no idea what's going to happen. Check it out. Frank Luntz. If pollsters are wrong and Trump wins, people like me will have to find a new profession. I like Frank Luntz. I think he does a good job. If you're not familiar, he's a very famous pollster. I believe he used to work specifically with Republicans, but he's been doing these things during debates and town halls where he has undecided voters and he asks them questions. And I got to be honest, man. When I hear the opinions of his undecided voters, it sounds like real life. But when you turn on, MSNBC or NBC or ABC or whatever, or CNN, it seems like they live in this paranoid and delusional reality. And, turning on Fox News, I'll tell you this. Fox News certainly has its own version of reality, too. I'm not saying right or wrong, but more closer to the real world. And I'll tell you what my basis for this is, right? When I go out, there was a post from CNN, okay? It was Brian Stelter, and he said that Trump speaks a language that only Fox News understands. And I'm just like, dude, when I go to the store, okay, and I live in a blue area. It's like D+8. It's very, very heavily blue. We've been setting up the new studio, so I've been out for about a couple weeks. But we were just there the other day. I went to the dentist, right? Because I don't know if you guys remember when I was like I had to get we couldn't do the IRL podcast because I had to get a crown and stuff. And these people in the blue area were telling me they were lifelong Democrats, and they're complaining about all of this stuff like Antifa, Joe Biden gaffing, him not being all there. And these are talking points from Fox News, right? Or from a channel like mine. And they didn't even know who I was initially. Initially, they were like, had no idea the content I produced or anything like that. And I remember, asking like, what do you, because I always try to talk to regular people about this stuff. Like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, is Trump going to win? They told me they were voting for Trump and Republican straight, down ticket, and that they were lifelong Democrats. And I've heard this over and over again. There are these posts about people quitting the Democratic Party, either becoming independent, voting, or whatever. And what you got to understand is it's not so much about people quitting the Democratic Party. What people don't seem to realize is that unaffiliated is way bigger than the parties. The Democrats, I think, in 2016 was like 36%. Republicans were like 30%. And then the rest was unaffiliated, which was like, it's a way bigger. Or I think unaffiliated and then a bit of, like third party. But for the most part, people they're independent. And so you have independents who are left independent and right independent, and they typically vote in that specific direction. That means Republicans win because moderate voters tend to vote Republican, but don't vote for the Republican Party. Not always. What we're seeing now, in my opinion, are nonpartisans who typically vote Democrat voting Republican. But I'll tell you this. The point of what I'm getting at, I got no idea what's going to happen. And anybody tells you they know what's going to happen, they're lying. Okay. So listen, I put out a lot of videos that are like, here's why Trump is winning. Here's good things for Trump. And I always try to clarify in them. First of all, it may just be wishful thinking. I'm trying to find reasons to explain why Trump should win, when in reality, all of the polls are saying no dice. And we're talking about polls that are just so wrong, like wrong beyond all recognition. If Trump wins, think about this. There will be no media anymore. Think about it. Frank Luntz, if pollsters are wrong and Trump wins, people like me will have to find a new profession. Let me read you this. This is crazy. Frank Luntz told Fox News' Brett Baer on Thursday night that his profession is done if Trump wins re-election and proves the national polls wrong yet again. I hate to acknowledge it because that's my industry, at least partially, but the public will have no faith, no confidence, Luntz said Thursday. Right now, the biggest issue is the trust deficit. Pollsters did not do a good job in 2016. So if Donald Trump surprises people, if Joe Biden had a 5 or 6 point lead, my profession is done. If the numbers turn out to be wrong, if Donald Trump is right and these pollsters are wrong about this race, then people like me are going to have to find a new profession. Check it out. Political polls. This is from the University of Texas. Has Joe Biden up 3 points in Texas. In Texas. Hasn't been Democrat in 44 years. And the polls are saying Texas is going blue. Okay, maybe. This is why so many people say the only way the Democrats will win is if they cheat, because how is that possible? Come on. They were even, I covered this yesterday. They were saying Montana swung 13 points towards the Democrats. Do people hate Donald Trump that much? I got to be honest. I don't think so. I talk to regular people all the time in many different places. And while, you know what I find a decent amount of? I find a decent amount of people who don't like Trump. That's true. Who want to vote for him because they want that money. Now, COVID may have changed things, that's for sure. But they've been saying, like, even before COVID, that Biden would beat Trump and all this stuff. So I'm not convinced. I see there was that UFC guy. Trump's running this ad on YouTube where he tells the people of Florida, we don't want to let the Democrats turn this into what they did to Venezuela and Cuba. I see these issues, and these things are prominent in the conversations I have with regular people. This is what I try to do to stay grounded. I follow liberal outlets, conservative outlets, like leftist activists. I hate saying liberal because liberals are basically, either not paying attention or voting for Trump, to be completely honest. But I talk to a lot of regular people. I follow people on the left. I follow people on the right. And I talk to as many unaffiliated people as I can. Earlier this year, I had a contractor, and he was like 26 or whatever, and he said he doesn't know much about politics, but he's sick of turning on the news and hearing them just rag on Trump and not give him an opportunity, so he's voting for Trump. And this is like a regular working class union guy. And I was like, you're going to vote for Trump? And it's a blue area, okay? Blue, deep blue. I don't know you say deep blue. It's like D+8, but it's New Jersey, okay? And this dude was just like, I don't know, man. I just think like, man, they won't leave this guy alone, you know? And I started laughing. I was like, is that your reason for voting for him? Because I got to be honest, like, I don't know if and he just said he doesn't think that Trump had an opportunity to actually be president. So he's like, I'm going to let the guy get another go at it. I was talking to another guy, told me he voted Democrat, union, his whole life. And now he's voting for Donald Trump. What's crazy about this is, how could it be that we hear like the Boilermakers 154 in Pennsylvania endorses Donald Trump? That's Pennsylvania union workers. And they're saying Joe Biden's going to win. We got in the Iron Range, 6 mayors said they're voting for they're endorsing Donald Trump. And there was some pushback from other Iron Range, people. This is like North Minnesota. It's a Democrat stronghold. And they're saying Donald Trump's going to lose. That's crazy to me, man. So look at this. Texas poll shows Biden is up 3 points, but in early voting right now, where Democrats are supposed to have the advantage. This was the predictions from all the forecasters. Republicans are up by 11 or 12 points in early voting. That's just Republicans. So we're assuming those votes are for Trump. I guess if those Republican partisan voters are voting for Joe Biden because Trump is the worst guy on the planet, maybe the numbers make sense. I tell you this, though, man, Trump is not that bad. For all of his faults and all of his problems and everything like that, we had a great economy and things were fine for most people who weren't following the news. And now what? COVID hits, things get bad. Are people really that dumb? I tell you this, man, we could be wrong. What if we are wrong? Here's what I always say. I try to figure out who's in the real world. And what I mean by that is who's in the bigger reality bubble, meaning which one of our worldviews is more likely to work for regular people. I tell you what, I think it's us. Now, of course, they think it's them, right? But let me tell you why. If I went to a regular person and asked them how they felt about white supremacists, they're going to be like, those are awful people. Great, excellent, we agree. How do you feel about those people wearing all black, Antifa, go around smashing up business? Oh, those are bad people too. Absolutely, we agree. So I can come out and say, we're seeing a ton of violence from the left, and we also have serious problems with extremist white supremacists. And people are going to be like, yes, you don't get that from the left. They ignore Antifa. They defend Antifa. In what sane world can you go to a city and be like, don't you love it when these people romp around smashing up your storefronts? No. Listen, I'm from Chicago. On the far west suburbs, we got places like Geneva, St. Charles, Naperville. I mean, these places sometimes, the suburbs can be red, but Chicago, for the most part, is a blue place, okay? So I grew up in the city, in the actual city. Everybody votes Democrat. They say, vote Democrat, vote Democrat. Okay. Well, the city's been, run poorly for decades, but sure, if that's what you want to do, you go ahead and do it. Now, in the suburbs, things get a little bit more, mixed, but for the most part, still pretty Democrat. I'm talking to some people who are complaining about Nancy Pelosi. They're angry that Pelosi won't just sign off on this deal. And I had someone say to me, why won't Nancy Pelosi sign off on the relief package? She just wants to cram through this stupid BS about voting or whatever. And I laughed and I'm like, how do you know that? What news are you watching that you heard this? Tucker Carlson's ratings have shattered records. The most watched cable TV news program in history. When we were told that cord cutting was coming and TV was on the way out. Ratings had been in steady decline, and now all of a sudden Tucker Carlson's the most watched show in TV history. To be fair, though, Rachel Maddow and Anderson Cooper are getting tremendous ratings. Like CNN and MSNBC are killing it as well. Tucker is obviously doing better. But if you combine the anti-Trump narrative, it's way more than the pro-Trump narrative. So I have to wonder, man, how is it that I come across so many people who would say that they're sick of the Democrats, they're sick of the BS, and they don't like critical race theory. Yet I'm supposed to sit here and believe that Trump is losing Texas. Think about that for 2 seconds. Trump is losing Texas. Now, okay, I've seen the demographic polls and everything, the changes in the southern Texas turning blue. You got Austin, of course. You got the big cities that are turning blue. But really, I mean, look, to be fair, it was close with Beto and Ted Cruz, so maybe. But according to the Washington Post, they're saying in aggregate, Texas is the closest race in the country. I'll tell you what, fine. The pollsters are right. Whatever is going on, the political landscape in this country has been flipped and shaken up and thrown and splattered, and who knows what anymore. Who knows who's voting where or what or why. That's why I think it's all busted. But Frank Luntz makes an interesting point. Do you want to bet against the entire polling industry? Listen, a lot of people say the polls were wrong in 2016. They were wrong early on, definitely. Like, there was ridiculous polls. But many people assume the polls were actually right. So let me clarify. There was points where, like, Hillary Clinton was up double digits. And people are like, see, the polls were wrong because she ended up losing. Or it could be email scandal, Anthony Weiner's laptop, things like that came out. And then people just flipped at the last minute. Now with early voting, one of the reasons Democrats wanted early and mail voting was so that they could get all of these votes before the October surprise. Because here's what happens. A week before the election in October, someone drops some damning information and it's fresh in everyone's minds. And then come election day, everyone votes for the other person. By doing early voting, which is where we're seeing most votes come in, people have already voted. And now they hear Joe Biden say he wants to end the oil industry. And now people are probably going, oh no, what have I done? If only I paid attention. And I'm not trying to be mean, but yeah, probably a lot of people in Pennsylvania went out and voted early because they're like, I'm just going to vote early. You know, Trump's crazy. Then they watch Joe Biden say, I will end the oil industry. And what did we see? In the past week, you can check us out on trends.google.com. There is a spike in people saying, can I change my vote? With Pennsylvania being the fourth highest searched location. Like, people in Pennsylvania were voting for this at the fourth highest numbers. Now, maybe they watch the debate and they say, I hate Trump. I want to change my vote from Trump to Biden. I really doubt it. I do not meet people who say Joe Biden is the best and we've got to defeat Trump. I see the activists. But look, in New Jersey, I saw one Biden-Harris sign the other day, which is kind of surprising to me. I see someone planted a Trump flag in this swampy marsh where there's no access. I'm like, how did they get in there? It's like a big open swampy area. You're like driving over this bridge and there's a massive Trump flag in a blue area. So I can tell you this. I have no idea what's going to happen. Nobody does. No one does. That's why the betting odds have Biden at like 60% and Trump at like 40%. And then 538 has Biden at, 88, 87%. Why are the pollsters giving us better odds than the actual betting platforms is what I find funny. But let me show you a couple more things on the way out. Rasmussen. Trump approval among likely black voters jumps to 46% after debate. Is this for real? Is Trump polling at 46% among black voters? Everything's changing. I mean, these things happen. We go through political upheaval. Florida, Trump is at 49 to Biden's 46, according to Rasmussen. That's Rasmussen. You know, Rasmussen's fairly pro-Trump. I was reading that, people are saying that Miami-Dade right now is flipping Republican in early voting. I couldn't find anything on that. Couldn't find any official voting data. Maybe I just missed it. But I heard that from people, and I'm like, that would be nuts. Miami is blue. Like, Miami, it's a city. It's blue. They're saying right now Republicans in Miami-Dade County have flipped. If that's true, like, it's Trump landslide territory. Like, I don't see how you have these blue areas flip for Trump and then, Trump ends up losing. We'll see, though. In December of last year in the UK, there were some areas that had never voted conservative for like 90 years, flipped conservative. And I wonder if we would see something like that, and we might actually see it. But let me show you a couple interesting things on the way out here. Biden breaks all-time television spending record. Trump just bought the YouTube masthead. You probably see it. You're on YouTube. And he's got a bunch of ads. The videos he put up are really funny because it's like they hired someone who made YouTube videos 5 years ago, and they got like the eggplant emoji and like the exploding head emoji. It's like, got to get that Gen Z vote, Trump, huh? I mean, I guess, yeah, but I don't think you're going to convince Gen Z by making one of these videos. Most of these people are probably motivated by just fitting in. That could be it. They're saying youth voter turnout's at an all-time high. But the thing you got to understand right now about early voting is it doesn't mean more voting. Early voting means people who are going to vote are voting. Now, in some places, they're really close to 100% of the votes cast in 2016. That's why many of them think, many pundits and forecasters think we're going to see historic voter turnout. I'm not entirely convinced because Gallup said voter enthusiasm is not remarkable. So it looks like we may be above average. But look, again, I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. Everybody wants to know. Everybody wants to believe they know what's going to happen. So I'll be honest with you, man. I watch these videos. I read these stories. I see these polls. Frank Luntz says Joe Biden will win. I trust the guy. I do. I look at the polls saying, in the forecast, saying Joe Biden's going to win. Okay. Last night, I voted. I voted for Donald Trump and Republican. The few choices that I had, because it was only like 2 or 3 choices, I knew some of them and I said, whatever, man. It's the first time in my life I've just gone straight Republican president. And I'm not a big political person. A lot of people like to claim that I'm some like staunch liberal pretending to be a liberal. And I was like, no, I've always been independent leaning left. I've never been partisan. I was never like a hardcore Democrat. Republicans try to claim it. I've seen these articles will pop up saying like, staunch Democrat Tim Pool flips. And it's like, not true, but it fits the narrative. And the left tries to say Tim Pool's not really a liberal. He was never a Democrat. That's true. But I am a liberal. And you know who I respect the most? Antifa. You know why? And not only in the political definition space. Well, actually, no, I take that back. I respect them when they talk about me. And that's it. You know why? Because they call me a stupid liberal. Because they know what a liberal is. Yeah. They call me a stupid liberal because they know what a liberal is. And then these resistance Democrats don't know what a liberal is. Liberals, any true liberal knows that Donald Trump is the most liberal candidate you have to choose from, even though he is conservative. For the most part, he's actually fairly moderate. Anyway, look. If these polls are wrong, and think about this, it will be earth-shattering. Earth-shattering. Seriously. That would mean every forecaster, every news outlet, every university, for the second time in a row, got it wrong. Our seers, those gazing into the crystal ball, have no idea what they're looking at. And perhaps it's wishful thinking to believe that's the case. Perhaps the power of the media is more than you know. And there's a big difference between this cycle and last cycle. You see, in 2015, you had negative press about Trump, but you had a lot of negative press about Hillary, and a lot of people didn't like Hillary. We had 4 years of negative press about Trump. And I kid you not, now Barack Obama is campaigning on this idea where he's like, think about it. A day where you don't got to hear about Donald Trump. A day where the media doesn't say anything about Donald Trump. And I'm like, that's the media doing that, dude. It's not going to change. It's not going to change. These media companies are desperate. They were on the way out before Trump. They have used the partisan message and shock content to stay alive. They are desperate. I warned about this back in 2016. Shane Smith of Vice News said there'll be a bloodbath in digital media. Well, you know how they staved off part of that bloodbath? They grasped onto Donald Trump. Either you love him or you hate him. And that's it. And that's all these networks have. When Trump is gone, it is going to be amazing. You know why? And I don't mean in terms of what happens to this country. I don't mean in terms of policy and politics, because I voted for Trump. What I'm saying is it'll be amazing to watch these news outlets explode. What will they cover? They're not going to write about Joe Biden. They're going to have nothing. Are they going to write about Trump? He's just a guy now. Ryan Long, the comedian, did a really great sketch about this. So you should check that out on his YouTube channel, where it's like they're in their office, like all sweaty and like, what do we write about? That's it. They'll have nothing. I don't know if they'll have the culture war anymore. I don't know what they'll do. But let me wrap it up with this. Wishful thinking, huh? It's possible the media is wrong. Seriously. Think about how wrong they were about Russiagate, and they won awards for it. So, Frank, you might be out of a job. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.